Hello and welcome to the Grumpy Surfer podcast. I'm your host, Ads Lyson. I'd just like to take a second to say thank you to everyone for the support on the last episode with John Thompson. Your feedback was instrumental, so thank you. In this episode, my guest is Kenny Baker, co-owner of Flow Martial Arts in Plymouth. Kenny is an extraordinary character, and this episode shares an insight into his upbringing and also how he developed into a high-level grappler. He shares stories of training with high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners here in the UK and in New York at Renzo Gracie's Academy. He also explains on how he came to open one of the top martial arts academies in the southwest of the United Kingdom, Flow Martial Arts. Please enjoy my conversation with Kenny Baker. Kenny Baker, welcome to the podcast.
Hey,
how you doing?
How's it going, mate? Good. Yeah.
Yeah. How's COVID been treating you?
It's been treating me well.
Yeah.
It's not as rough as they say.
It's all lies. Right. So to start the podcast, then, what I'd like to do is, just get a little bit of a feel for you. You know, you growing up, how you got into jiu-jitsu martial arts, and how you got to where you are today.
So basically, I was brought up in Tavistock, which is about 20 miles out in the country, a little bit, little town. So Francis Drake was from Tavistock. Pretty cool.
Was he inbred as well?
Yeah, definitely. I was brought up there. It's a strange town. It's like cheese shops by day and vampires by night. When I was younger, so in the evenings, it's obviously like a villagey. Lots of villages and towns come together. A lot of families and stuff. So when drinking starts to flow, everyone either is in. You can guess what sort of happens in those situations. Always a lot of fights and things going on. My family, or a lot of the guys in my family, they're all boxers. So I think as far back as I know, it's my great granddad, my granddad, my dad, my uncle. They're all boxers. I think my great granddad and granddad were pretty good. My uncle could have been pretty good. My dad just sort of dabbled in it, but they were all big boxing enthusiasts. So from such a young age, I was always in around that sort of thing. Massive Mike Tyson fan, and watching him as I was growing up. So it was always sort of in me a little bit. So then I got into, as I got a little older, Jean-Claude Van Damme. I was into a lot of martial art videos and films and stuff. So I wanted to take up martial arts. So I was always doing a little bit of boxing at home, or just more play boxing. And then I started taking up. Actually, I took up judo first for about a week, and then I remember I was about 9, and I went there, and it was like everyone's been yelled at and shouting, scared me.
Where was that? Is that in Tavistock, or was it in Plymouth?
Yeah, it was like a little village hall in Tavistock. So there's a lot of bigger kids then as well. So there's like the old school martial arts. Well, everyone's like very regimented and very, very disciplined, and I guess it just scared me as a 9-year-old or whatever. So it wasn't until I was about 11 I started up, or 10 actually maybe. I took up karate, and then I got obsessed with that. I'd done that for about 5 years, I think, 5-6 years. Just religiously, that was all I thought about. Done karate and kickboxing, and then from there I took a break for a few years, and I just got sort of fed up with it in a sense. Like I got to black belt, I got my black belt from it, and then there was a part of me, because I was always getting into like I guess fights in town and whatnot as a kid. There's always an element of, if a guy's big and he grabs hold of you, I was always like sort of stuck, or just even big alone. It's just having that big guy, that horsepower coming at you. It was just tough to deal with. So it wasn't until years later, really a few years later, that I saw. Actually, then I started getting into bodybuilding a little bit.
Nice.
You can still see it, right?
Yeah, massive.
Yeah,
so
huge.
ripped.
So I got into that for a while, and then I went to the old HMV stores, and I think I was looking at some videos, or whatever, and I seen a UFC video. It was a VHS, UFC 2, and yeah, I picked that up and I was like, read it, and I was like, and I remember when I quit karate, it was just starting to come on the scene. I think this UFC thing, and so it sort of triggered an alarm bell in my head. But I also read it and thought, this can't be real. It's like no hold bars, no rules.
Yeah.
Picked that up, and I thought, let's see what this is about. I remember watching that and watching obviously Ken Shamrock, Royce Gracie, and I was into it because of Ken Shamrock. So I was like, physique on that guy,
He wasn't the world's most dangerous man then, was he?
He was the world's most best looking man.
He's close.
So yeah, then this Royce Gracie was there, and I was like, oh, he's gonna get whooped because everyone else is huge, and we all know the story from there. So
yeah.
I instantly got obsessed. I was like, I have to find this. I had to find someone that taught jiu-jitsu. There was actually a friend of mine who was into WWF. He was like, he'd do the local thing,
Yeah.
and do his own little shows. He said to me, there's a place in Plymouth that done Vale Tudo, and I was like, I'm not into ballet. He's like, no, it's MMA. It's like what the Brazilians called no hold bars.
Yep.
It's the original like MMA. And that was the nearest thing. It had obviously a bit of grappling in it, so I went along, and that was pretty much it. From that point, I've not stopped since. So my first real introduction to jiu-jitsu was actually MMA. So I'd already done karate in the back previously. I actually had a couple of MMA fights without even knowing much jiu-jitsu at all.
Yeah.
I knew a guillotine. I didn't know a shrimp. I didn't have a shrimp in me until 2 years after training. So it was strange times because it's hard for people to realise now that people didn't even know what the UFC was back then. Like nobody. Yeah. Let alone like jiu-jitsu or anything like that.
Well, it's only the last 10 years, really. That's come mainstream, hasn't it, really?
And I became absolutely obsessed with those early UFCs. And to the point where actually I was buying the early ones, and I didn't even realise they were up to date to the point where I think it was up to UFC 30 or something at that point.
Right.
And I still thought we were still like, no gloves and all that stuff. So I was buying all these DVDs and watching it, and I remember people at the time saying like, why do you watch this? I was like, and I used to say to them, this is going to be huge. There's a massive part of me that I just knew this was going to be huge. How you could not watch that and just instantly be like hypnotized by it almost. It's one of the few sports that's sort of universal. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter what language you speak or where you're from. Everybody understands a fight.
Yeah.
So yeah, and even though I said like this is going to be huge, there's still a part of you that thinks it probably won't, but it should be. But then it wasn't until UFC, I think 40 came along. That was really the turning point. I think Ken Shamrock fought Tito Ortiz.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
Yeah, that was really the first turning point because Ken Shamrock had left the UFC and gone away and become quite a big star in the WWF or WWE world. So yeah, I think that was that to me that felt like the turning point because when that happened, it was like, wow, there's famous people in the audience, and it was really like that felt like the turning point, and it sort of from that point onwards, and obviously then you had the Tough Show and whatnot. And
yeah.
From what it was then, 10, 15 years ago to what it is now, it's just insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. I've not really ever seen anything like grow that quickly.
Yeah. I think what it is back in those days, people didn't like reality, or people don't like reality. So if you've got a guy that's in a ring or even in the street and they see a street fight, it's probably the most horrific thing they've ever seen because they've never seen a physical fight before. Yeah. So having it in a controlled environment where guys have got 4-ounce gloves on and they're kicking the crap out of each other, taking people down and ground and pounding. And in those days, you could soccer kick someone in the head or knee them on the ground and stuff. It was really, really brutal. Yeah. But from your sort of like primitive part of your brain, it's naturally ingrained into you.
Yeah, it's who we are. Who we are. And the thing is, no matter how much like people say, they don't like fighting or whatever, if they see a fight, they're going to stop and watch.
Or video it now.
Yeah. But yeah, it's insane. It's like one of those. It's like sex, and it's like the same. Sex, fighting. These industries are like very, very powerful. It taps into our primitive side. And I think people don't even realise how much they like it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you could almost convert it to, if you look at things on the news, war zones and stuff like that. You put that graphic information in front of people, they don't like it there all the time because it is reality. And I kind of talk about bubbles where people like to live in their own little bubble, and anything outside of their bubble, nothing really exists to them. 100%. Then when that bubble gets popped, like for instance, let's just say for the Russians came over to the United Kingdom and started invading, and we were doing guerrilla wars and stuff like that within our own little towns and stuff. Man, that's thrown into your face, and then people are like, oh, actually, this is reality,
And it's funny, I was talking about the other day with a lot of things. People, I think once we get ourselves in our bubbles, which we can get into very quickly, we very, very soon forget reality on a big level. It's like it was only 70 years ago, some guy was trying to gather up Jews and put them into gas chambers. That was only 70 years ago.
Yeah,
that's insane. But even though we know that, there's a difference between knowing that and having that real understanding, that feeling behind that. So we think we're safe here, but any time something bad could really happen. War could happen at any point.
I mean, look what's happening now. The last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. It's nuts. It's and I think I don't know, man. I don't know. It's really. I just think people need to pay attention to these things a little bit sometimes to realise they're not the most important thing in the world.
No, and with this time off as well, from my point of view, I've kind of. The first month or so was kind of difficult because you were at home and in proper lockdown. I use that in inverted commas for some people. You kind of start to realise what is important to you as well, and what you miss, what you need, and what you want.
Yeah.
I think people kind of need that little kick sometimes as well.
This is the beautiful thing about grappling. Fighting as well, but grappling in particular, because it's one of the few things you're going to get in modern day life that is a real sense of instant reality. So, all the little conceived ideas you have about yourself, all the little notions that you make up and how great you are, and how you create this ego for yourself, and you think you're this something special. You suddenly get on the mat and some, half your weight guy is choking you to death. You know what I mean? And it's like there's a realization there. There's no hiding from that. None. There's no hiding from that. You can make excuses up, and you get that. You get guys like they're going to keep making excuses up, but then eventually they'll quit. That's all that will happen. But if you stick at it and keep going, you have to admit. I always joke about this. You like to swear on this podcast.
Yeah, do what you want.
You have to acknowledge that you're just a piece of shit in the universe. And I don't mean that in a horrible way, but I mean it's important to stay humble in that way, because you are. Ultimately, what all said and done, you're a speck of the universe. You're not that important, but because we are in our own selves, we think we're the most important thing. Everything revolves around us. Jiu-Jitsu suddenly humbles that very quickly. There's not much lying behind it. You get instant feedback. You're getting choked, you're getting pinned to the floor by some guy. There's nothing you can do about it. You've now got to face all these little excuses in your head, and they're gone. You've got nothing left. This guy's better than me. This guy beat me. Essentially, this guy killed me. That was reality. That guy's just killed me. So once you start to strip away all the shit that you think of yourself, these amazing things you think of yourself, and you're just left rawly with who you are and admitting who you are, that's when you can build yourself up. Because everything else is built off a fake platform if you can't do that. Yeah. So at some point that deck of cards is going to go. So, and I would imagine it's the same with a lot of things like war and soldiers and stuff that have been in serious combat. I think you soon know who you are, and it creates. What does Jiu-Jitsu do? It creates a band of brothers almost. It creates sisters.
Yeah.
In this modern world, but it creates a bond between people, and military does the same. Especially the guys that gone on tour together, and
there are some really good
unbreakable bond.
It's good crossovers between the two.
Yeah, it's about stripping back who you really are, exposing who you are, and your brothers and sisters next to you are doing the same, and you're all on this journey together. and that's to me that's creating like a real family. That's to me the what's the word? I don't know, but that's like the bond that's like more powerful than many other things. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It makes perfect sense because at the end of the day, when you come into this world, you're just bare naked body,
Yeah.
and you've only got your physical attributes that you've been granted in life. And when you are grappling or fighting, it is the most primitive part of being.
And growing up, that's why as you're a kid growing up, you're an empty shell of knowledge, and it's important that parents and people put the right kind of things in. That's why losing is so important as a kid. You have to lose. It's the only way you really develop in life.
Yeah.
It's like as a baby, you don't get a baby. You start to like trying to walk and then fall over, and then this shit ain't for me. They don't quit on that. You keep going until you can walk, and it's the same with everything. But you have to take the falls. You have to lose because you don't know who you are until that point.
Yeah.
So this whole everyone's a winner. It's not life. That's just not life, and I'm not going to bring my kids up believing that. You make yourself become the winner. You don't become the victim. You make yourself be the winner. And if you fail, you can rest with yourself. You can live with that. You tried your best, but you've been honest with yourself. But when you haven't been honest with yourself, you make up this idea of who you think you are. And you start to point fingers. You blame other people. You're not being honest to yourself. And that's where the insecurities come from, in my opinion. Be comfortable with who you are. Be comfortable with being honest with yourself. Because we're all just pieces of shit in the universe.
Yeah. But mere little bits of space dust floating around.
Yes. I probably should change that word because I think some people are like, I'm not a piece of shit in the universe.
Doesn't really matter, does it?
But it's yes, these things. What it's hard because it's like I even think kids fighting is so important. That stuff's important. Well, I think it is. It's I'm not talking about like to the death. You know what I mean? But having those little scraps and stuff as a kid, it's a lot. You learn a lot of respect that way.
Well, it's also character building as well.
Building. You learn again. You just learn about who you are, and then being honest. It's very hard to walk away from a fight that you've lost, finding excuses, because that's why you get that sinking feeling in the heart. And it's really from there you've got to just start being honest with yourself. And I lived in New York for a while, and I was talking to my friends over there. I think they have like this 3-strike rule where if you get in trouble more than 3 times, you can go to jail and stuff.
Right, okay.
Basically, when that sort of came into play over there, a lot of people became a lot more rude and stuff, like the general people. This is what I've been told, and it's sort of like if I know there's no repercussions from you, if I can talk to you how I want, and I'm annoyed, I woke up bad that morning, or whatever, then that's what's going to happen. If I'm going to start talking to you like I probably wouldn't, because I knew you could kick my ass and you probably would, I wouldn't do that. There is that level of respect there. It doesn't mean you're walking around like a bully, but if you know the guy next to you can just give you a slap if you're going to be out of line, it's like you suddenly have an instant feel of respect for that. You know what I mean? But here's the thing with that. What do you rarely see fighters do? You rarely see them lose a temper and fight each other, or other people. They get that out of their system. They're understanding how to control that. If you suppress that, so you tell your kids you mustn't fight, you mustn't run, you mustn't do this, you mustn't do that constantly. It's just this like form of suppression. Don't jump in that puddle. It's like all these things are like learning things that they must do as they grow. And you keep suppressing, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. And you grow up and you're like, you get into an argument with your girlfriend or whoever. What happened? You've not been in those situations before. Yeah. You don't know how to deal with your emotions.
I think that's when martial arts really comes in. I mean, I did taekwondo when I was younger, and I didn't really. But there wasn't really much going on, I was similar to you. I did a bit of karate. I boxed when I was, in my teens, but there wasn't really that much going on. I didn't even find out about MMA really until 2013, literally 2013. But I'd surfed since I was like 14, so that was like my thing. And a few of my friends had done it, and I was like, nah. And they've asked me to come and do a bit of grappling with them and stuff. Nah, I'm not going to hug blokes, or it's a little bit.
Here we are now. Look.
Yeah, I love where I am now. But yeah, going back to like what you were talking about with kids and stuff, the self-discipline and the sort of like the rules that are set by martial arts, and if you stick with it when you're younger to when you're older, it sets that character where you can understand empathy. You'll lose if you're sparring. It's good if you're winning, but you're also humble with it as well, because you always know that there is going to be somebody better than you at the other side of it.
One of the biggest things I think is important is being relaxed and being comfortable with loss, with losing. Not being scared of losing, not being afraid of losing, not wanting to shy away from exposing yourself in case you lose. Because if you don't do that, you're never gonna move forward with anything in life. You're never gonna try anything new. You're never gonna experience anything new.
Yeah.
You're just gonna keep yourself in your safety bubble.
So you started doing Valtudo.
Yes.
Was that down here in Plymouth?
That was it was a place called Saints at the time. It was along Mutley.
Okay.
Mutley
Yeah.
A guy called Simon and Phil Holmes used to do it. So they were like in the early days very good at what they'd done. I think one of them was like sort of in brackets sort of a British champion.
Okay.
But they were more like that old school. A lot of Thai boxing involved, and just a rudimentary form of like basic grappling, I guess. That was it. Probably white belt at best, really, compared to now.
Yeah.
But it was always like I'd done a few MMA fights and stuff, but it was just really the grappling that I was interested in. I actually trialed for one of the UFC Tough shows.
Okay.
I was actually invited up there, like, because I was under Carl Tanswell. So basically, when I was training, I wanted to do more jiu-jitsu, and a couple of friends of mine, they went away on holiday to America near Oregon.
Right.
And whilst they were over there, they spent like 6 weeks training they went to go to train at Team Quest. But around the corner there was a SBG gym, because a lot of the guys from Team Quest went to SBG to do some more jiu-jitsu. So a guy called Matt Thornton, who's the founder of SBG, they went there to train with him. And after about 6 weeks, they came back and they were like mind blown. I was mind blown. They wrote down all the materials, they material that they learned, and videoed a lot of things. And it was really from there we started learning what jiu-jitsu was, shrimps and stuff. I mean, that was the first time I learned the shrimp, and I was like, mind blown. You know what I mean? And it's wow, you just like do that, and you get to there, and that to me, then it was like from that point onwards, we found there was an SBG gym headquarters in the UK in Manchester from Carl Tanswell. Mm-hmm. So we've done like a few little trips up to there, and also got Carl down to do some seminars and whatnot. And that was really it. That was where we got our stuff from. We didn't have a permanent coach or anything. Yeah. It was just me and my two friends. And we just went from there. We'd train, take bits. But even though we weren't spoon-fed much material, but like Carl or SBG were very good at like teaching you how to become a coach, the fundamentals, and giving you some good concepts to work on. And from that point, it was like we could just keep training with each other, isolate things, and just go from there. And we improved a lot, Do
you feel the way that you teach now, was influenced by that?
Massively. Like, Carl was like, to me, one of the greatest coaches. He wasn't just teaching you jiu-jitsu, he was teaching you about you. If you had insecurities and stuff or whatever, and you're on the mat, he would see them. He would see them straight away. He had a gift there, and he was very good at then exposing them, bring them to attention, and then sometimes it would piss you off, you know what I mean? Like, but he'd be always doing it for the right reasons. And you have to pay attention to those things. As I was saying, like you can't improve fast if you have an ego. You can't develop this way. You have to just again strip yourself down, and a lot of time you just have to face who you are. And so yeah, he would give us a lot of insight into who we were, give us some fundamentals in jiu-jitsu, would go away, and that's what I'd work on. And then there's massive gains, massively day. I mean, even when I went to New York and trained with John, Henzo, Eric, and whatnot. But when I think about like really Carl had like the biggest influence on me, probably not so much at the time either. Even it was more now looking back. Like when I look back and I'm like, wow, I do that and that and that, and it's like all from him. And to be fair, a lot of those coaches that I just spoke about, they're all very similar in a way. And I think all great coaches are. We had Greg Jackson down here a year ago, 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And again, very similar to like a lot of stuff that good coaches are doing, SBG and whatnot. It's very fundamentally sound, solid stuff.
Yeah, I think what I got taught when I was when I changed jobs in the Marines and I went over to being a physical training instructor, one of the things that stuck with me and has stuck with me through coaching was that you should do as many courses as you can, not necessarily because you want to do those coaching courses, but the people that are teaching, and you can take bits of how they teach and how they coach, and use it within your within your own coaching set. And you're talking about the way that you teach. What I find when you're teaching here is that you might not think it, but you break things down, even complex maneuvers, or you teach in a submission or something. You'll break it down to the point where you're not just explaining this is how you do it. You're explaining this is why you do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't do this, then you're not going to be successful in what you're doing. Yeah. And that's, if you're teaching somebody that way, it's the most basic form of coaching, I think.
I think as well, like, if you can't, there's a saying, is I think it was maybe Einstein or someone, but if you can't teach a 6-year-old, explain something to a 6-year-old, then you don't really understand it. It's sort of true. I try to see. It's funny. I'll walk away sometimes from classes, and I'll go to my girlfriend. And I'll be like frustrated, especially like a few years back. I'd be so frustrated. I'm like, I said, did I explain that well? I didn't come across well. I always feel like I struggled to articulate things. I'm not very good with my vocabulary. I'm not a little bit dyslexic.
You can't be any worse than I am.
Yeah,
trust me.
So I do get frustrated because sometimes I don't have the words that I need to explain things, and it actually definitely it really gets me frustrated sometimes. But yeah, I think because I was essentially self-taught, and Carl ingrained fundamentals all the time, it's stuck with me to the point where like I understand something really well, and I'm not teaching something unless I know I can do it.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to. If someone taught me something, they probably thought I was being a bit of an ass. Like when I would show me something or teach me something, I wouldn't just say, "Oh, cool," and then apply it. I'd be like, "Yeah, but why?" I'd always want to know why. Why would I want to do that? And I wasn't doubting what they're saying. I just wanted to know the ins and outs of every reason to choose that particular move or whatever it was. Why? Until then, you've run out of whys and you've literally got the complete answer. So take something, it's like an onion, and then strip away the layers. Keep stripping things away. And I do that now with my. I've learned so much over the last couple of years teaching the basic 101 class. It's one of my favourite classes to teach, and with that class, I have set positions that I work on each week, and it's on like a 6-week rotation. So anybody new that comes in, they have to spend a few months there, a couple months there, whatever. But they get through the whole system eventually. Whether they jump in, say we're jumping into close guard that week, the following week will be bottom and top, side control, whatever. But teaching that over the last couple of years, I've stripped away so much more material from that class that I just didn't need. It just didn't need. Like if you're a new person beginning, it's like you don't need to know, well, your hip wants to put there to put that pressure there. You want to put that. They don't care. They don't know, they're not going to remember this. The minute they're struggling to walk properly, you know. So there's a couple of things that I need to make sure. Firstly, is that the mindset's correct. You know, that's the main thing for me, is that I get their mindset correct and just get them moving as soon as possible in a healthy way, but with a basic understanding. And with that basic understanding, I have to strip that away more and more. So it's literally like I'm teaching a child what to do. And I feel like people develop a lot quicker that way now. Everything takes time. You know, when you're trying to, you know what it's like in jiu-jitsu, you see this move and that move, and you want to learn that one. Next minute, you're trying to learn 20 moves at the same time, and it's just not, it's not how you do it. It's like trying to drive a car and then go at 90 miles an hour, also whilst trying to race other people on the most hideous track ever. It's like you've not even learned how to drive yet.
I tell you where that's quite a prominent feature is if you ever, when you go to seminars.
Yeah.
So you're paying your money to get taught something for a few hours by, a top guy. And he might think he's keeping it really simple, or teaching like for instance, something that you would think was really like simple would be like a guillotine. But then they'll throw loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of different things into it, instead of just keeping it really, really simple. Like, this is where your wrist needs to go. This is where your hand needs to go. This is where, your weight needs to be. Keeping it super, super simple. And then people go away and do it, but they don't grasp the concept, especially if you're newer to it, newer to grappling than you are, if you're a purple, brown, or obviously black belt. Yeah. And sometimes, that's really difficult to try and grasp that as well.
It's hard because you got to know your audience, and that's the problem when you do like seminars. You have a mixed ability of people. So no matter what level, like details, fine tuning, that's all. All the different possibilities in SBG. They call it possibilities. They're so vast. There's so much of it. It's like, all different people are going to do slightly different, and everybody's at a different level and an understanding of different counters and blah blah blah. It goes on and on and on. But again, you strip all that down, and it's still like all of them have to fundamentally do it in the same way. There's still those concepts and that are the same across the board. And it's funny that even though high level guys still sometimes don't have the best fundamentals, you need to still work on them. When you look at someone like Roger Gracie, who to me is the genius of fundamentals. You look at what he does, and he'll teach, I don't know, guillotine or a mount control or cross check, whatever. Even though most guys know that at a good level, it's like there's still details within those fundamentals that he's taken to a whole new level.
Yeah.
And you look at his game; it's quite it is a simplistic game. From what you see visually, it's not. It's actually really, really technical, but it's really technical on a basic, or not basic, but like a fundamental level.
Yeah.
Really understands. So you got guys doing inversions and burn burlers and all that. He shuts that down because he knows if he can, keep that hip away or whatever at a certain time, it's like that's what he understands. He needs to know one thing to shut down your 20 things. Does that make sense? So it's like the biggest thing underlooked is the fundamentals. But people want products these days, don't they? You give me £10 and I'll give you a product. They want to have something that they tangibly see, and that's why like a lot of people, they want to teach these moves. To be honest, mate, like if you understand the fundamentals, you can watch a YouTube video, see a new technique, and pretty much grasp it straight away with a little bit of drilling. But yet you get a lot of people that I had some guys who developed very quickly because they had really good guard retentions and a good guard attacking game. But once that had been taken away and they were past, or the fundamentals of like their escapes and that were terrible.
Yeah.
I actually noticed that a lot when I was at Henzo's. There were some really, really obviously good guys, world champions, some of them. They're excellent, like unbeatable. But then when we started doing like isolated positional training, you'd start in a good spot or whatever, you'd soon see massive flaws in their game. Weaknesses there. So it's because they've never been put there. You know, no one really mounts them or takes their back or is in side control. So, because they don't work on those things, there's some holes there. But you've got to think about that, because if you know you know yourself that there's a few holes in those sort of positions that only manifest into insecurities with the things you're good at.
Yeah.
So if I've got really good guard retention, but I'm terrible at escapes, the panic's going to be there a lot more to keep my guard retention on point. You know, that's going to create stress. That's going to hinder your breathing. So you really need to have a good, complete, fundamentally packaged game.
Yeah.
You have to, you know, if you want to excel. So yeah, I've always focused on the fundamentals. I've always had side projects. You know, when my back was healthy, like 4 years ago, my main game was actually for about 3 years all the burn bowlers and leg drags, and I was following the Mendes stuff a lot, but body doesn't hold up so well for that no more. And it's funny because my game's become a lot more basic now than it ever has, you know. And that's going to happen as you get older, because you're going to find a lot of things you can't do that you've done, and heavier.
Yeah.
Older and heavier.
Which could be a benefit, I don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah, mate, fundamentals, and spend the time on understanding it. Not just as a coach. I mean, if you can just perform it, you can perform it, great. But if you're going to coach, you need to understand it, and you need to be able to get that across to people.
Looking at different types of sports and coaching and stuff, I mean, I've been exposed to it quite a lot. I get quite frustrated with, I know I shouldn't, but people that teach things but can't do them themselves.
Yeah.
I'll give you a good example of that, like swimming coaches. You know, you get some swimming coaches that'll be on poolside, and they're telling people like how to do tumble turns or how to do a certain technique with their elbows and stuff to make their stroke more functional.
Yeah.
But when they get in the swimming pool, they swim like your nan.
Yeah.
You know, and they're not applying what they're teaching.
Yeah.
Whereas like with jiu-jitsu and when you have coaches there, it's really good having them there. They've taught you it.
Yeah.
But then when they're actually training with you as well, I think that's really important too.
Yeah, I've had this conversation before about whether a coach needs to be able to perform it to be a good coach and whatever. There's a little bit of yes and no to both, because, you know, you look at, like, I don't know, the NFL or whatever, you get the guys running out, but you're not going to get the old coach there run out and show them how it's done. You know, that's not going to work. But in my opinion, of course you need to have the full experience and understanding of something. You need to be have done it to at least a certain level yourself. You can have a really good eye. So some of the best coaches have a good eye and are very good at breaking things down and critique. John Danaher's a good example, right? Obviously, he's a very good coach in that way, that he's got a good eye for break things down. He's very articulate, and he systematically puts things in a great order for learning and understanding. But yeah, you can't get a guy that's like a white, blue belt, purple belt, sort of be at that level and coach. You need to spend a lot of time to understand it yourself. Doesn't mean you have to be a world champion yourself, of course not, because I've seen plenty of world champions that are not great coaches.
No, you're right.
It's just the two different things, but one definitely helps the other if you do it right. It's not a straightforward answer. Do you know what I mean? So I think I'm very critical of myself, right? So even when I've won a competition, you can see on the podium I'm not the happiest. I never cared about the win or the loss. Obviously I don't want to lose, but I was always more concerned about the performance. How did I perform? Did I hit my potential? Did I do what I knew I could do? You know, if I didn't and I still won, I'm not that happy. I just ain't. I'm just that way. So I'm sort of like that with everyone else. I'm very good at. You put me in a room with the sun, you know, and I'll find darkness. It's sort of how I'm a little bit wired. It's not always the healthiest thing for myself, but it makes me very. Because I want the best for my guys. You know what I mean? That's the annoying thing. It's like sometimes I'm a little blunt sometimes as well. But the thing is, there's nobody in this room that wants more for you than me in this, because you are a representation of everything that I've done for the last 20 years. So it gets frustrating, or it's actually annoying when someone takes it offensively because, or they you get some students leave because they didn't get the next belt and things like that. It's like, I want you to get your belt more than you do, because you're just thinking about you. I'm thinking about what I've done for the last 20 years and the whole team. I'm thinking about everything. So you represent the latest of me. So I want you to have that belt when it means something.
Yeah.
Okay, not when you want it because it's a good feel-good factor, or it's good for Instagram, or whatever the hell. I'm not gonna sell myself out for that. But that's for you. It's like I'm doing this for you, not just for me. So that gets frustrating sometimes. But you're not going to change some people like that. They don't really care about the substance or something. You just want something for the sake of wanting it because it makes them feel good.
Yeah, I think that goes well, with the way that you have your attention to detail, and I think you putting that self pressure on yourself is also a good trait to have, because you're your own critic.
Yeah.
And if you're not your own critic and you are happy with what you're doing and you don't change anything, then your ability to coach and see things is never going to change either.
Yeah. I'm never happy with where I'm at.
But you name anybody that is, though. Some people might be happy. Yeah. They might say they're happy where they're stuck doing the same 9 to 5 job, going to a factory, doing this and that. But deep down, they're not. No. They're not. No one, the natural human instinct isn't meant to be stuck doing the same thing day in, day out. We're hunter-gatherers. We're designed to go out, explore, do lots of different things, have experiences. And even if you just focus on that one thing and go, well, this is my life. Well, I would suggest that you need to change that, and you'll never be happy.
100%. Every year, if I look back and I'm doing the same stuff, it's in the same way, I'm not happy. It's this feeling inside me. So the last 3 months have been an absolute nightmare for me. It's like just not been able to progress in anything really that I want to do. It's that's super frustrating. But yeah, man, I love this team here. That I love the environment and stuff, and I hold it really dear to me. So that's why I can take it quite personally sometimes if I feel like it's being flawed, or because I listen to a lot of people. Like I'm like I listen to all sorts of ideas, and you look at the people we have here. There's such a mixed bunch of people, and I like that. Doesn't mean I always agree or whatever, but to me, it has to improve constantly. It can't stay plateaued. And then some people will gauge themselves against others. That's the worst thing. Like, oh, he got that belt and I'm better than him. Your journey is different. And me as a coach, I have to look at everybody individually and be like, I always look at it as bar charts, for each person. So their attributes are great here, or their mental ability is really good here, or their technique might be low here, or their attitude. That's a massive one for me. The attitude of how they are, because your attitude carries the rest of it. Does that make sense? Like if you have an ego and all those things, it's not gonna. You're always gonna struggle. And that's what, right from the very start, we were talking about. You have to strip yourself down and be raw with yourself.
Yeah.
Be honest with yourself. And sometimes I highlight those things to them, like Carl used to do with me, right? He would highlight. Like I remember Carl once. I talk so quickly sometimes, and like if I'm thinking, it comes out. So I interrupt people sometimes, but it's just like my mind's just, and because I've got a terrible memory, and if I don't say it now, it's going to get forgotten. But he would say things like, I have a quote on the wall down there. It says, two ears, one mouth. And I remember I was at his gym once, and one of his guys was showing me something. I think I might have already known what it was, whatever it was. And I think it was a purple belt at the time. And Carl stood there, and he goes to whoever it was, Matt or whatever. He says, "Show him that De La Riva thing." So he showed me it, and as he showed me it, I've sort of interrupted. Go, because you put this here and that foot there. And Carl just looks at me and goes, "Bro," he said, "You got 2 ears, 1 mouth. Fucking use it." And I was so annoyed at that point, but you walk away from that, and like that evening, I remember thinking about it, and I was like, "Fuck, you're so right." Like, this guy was trying to help me, right? So if I didn't know it, I would have learned something. But even if I did know it, he's still trying to help me. Shut the fuck up, like be humble, and that's important. So what need did I need to talk there? This guy's giving me his time. He's trying to show me something. It's always sat in my head that, and it's like if you wanna like the smartest guy is normally the guy that's quiet and observes, isn't he? He just sits there and watches everything. And then when it's his time, he then says or strikes, And I think that's important. So yeah, all of this stuff, man. It's nobody wants better for everyone than me, but sometimes they don't think that, do they?
Well, that's them, not you.
It's
You don't need to worry about that.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. But mate, I love it here. I'm so not many things I'm proud of in life, my kids and stuff. But like this is
Well,
I'm really proud of this work.
I tell everyone, I mean, granted, my experience in this sort of thing is like very limited. Like 6 or 7 years I've been doing this for, doing jiu-jitsu for anyway, and I would say this facility is probably the best facility in the southwest.
Thanks, man.
With its layout, you've got a good little gyms. You've got the instructors and stuff here. Lots of versatility and lots of different characters able to input things.
Yes.
That's a really good thing to have, I think.
Yeah, you go to some gyms, like world class gyms, but if you look at the students, they move like the instructors. They act and talk, and it's like almost like they're becoming like watered down versions of the coach. I don't want that here. I want people to be themselves. I want individual games. I don't want someone to roll like me because you're not me, And that's where, again, understanding things on a fundamental level. Once you understand that, you've got your base and you build your own art. That's martial arts. You build your own art from that.
Yeah.
The fundamentals have to be a dictatorship. They have to be a set in stone. And then from that base, you build however you like your house. You build it your own way.
So, SPG, you were doing trips up to Manchester?
Yeah, so I got all my belts from Carl up to brown belt. So basically, a good training partner I had from when I was with both white belts was Gunnar Nelson. So a lot of people know that he fights in UFC and ADCC. 2009, I think he got third, fourth place in the absolute.
I'd have to Google it, but I'll say yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Gunnar, if I didn't get that right, but you can get on with it. We trained together pretty much every now and again, every once a year maybe even. We'd go up to Manchester, we'd meet up, train, stay there for a week, 2 weeks, whatever. So we went through that, got to our brown belts pretty much the same time. He then went away to Renzo Gracie's for a year.
Which is in New York?
Yep. Obviously, one of the biggest and best jiu-jitsu gyms in the world. He came back after about a year. We trained together, and he just was on a whole new level. Whooped my ass. So, me being me, I was like, oh shit! I didn't realize there's a whole new level to this. So, I had to get myself out there. So I ended up going out there for about a year, training with Renzo. There was John Danaher. A main guy that I actually trained under was a guy called Eric Owens, who was one of John Danaher's top guys, Renzo's top guys.
Yeah.
He fought in the old IFL days, MMA and whatnot. Well, he trained over there. He was friends with Gunny as well, but he was setting up his own gym called Mushin at the time.
Right.
I ended up living with him actually as well in his apartment. So basically, my days really entailed. I would train at Renzo's at 10 o'clock competition class, and that was like full of. It's all black. I was a brown belt at the time, so it was all full of black belts. So I was lucky enough to get in there. And there's all like world champions or just killers. Then at 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock, I'd then train in John Danaher's class, and then later in the evening I'd then train with Eric for about an hour as well. So that was my life pretty much for a year. And then what I learned the most from that is work ethic and having a certain like more just backing up a lot of the mindset approach to training. It wasn't really till I came back to Plymouth and I had no one to train with apart from lots of white belts and blue belts. That was when I improved massively. Insane, because I took on the things I learned from New York and whatnot, and that mindset, and applied it to my training, and that, like, literally week by week my game just improved.
Was that teaching and coaching as well?
Teaching and coaching, yeah.
So one of the things that I've also found with teaching in lots of different things, not just grappling, is that you improve so much more and you understand so much more by teaching.
Yeah.
If you just say, for instance, you teach a subject that you know nothing about, you will learn more from that subject by actually teaching it.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I started teaching, there was basically nobody around. So my coach Simon had quit, so it sort of left on me. I didn't want to coach; it wasn't my goal. I just liked training and whatnot and competing. So I just started teaching to help out. But I soon realised you'd get asked questions. I didn't know the answer, but you'd sort of have to analyse it on the spot. So I'd be honest and be like, I don't really know, but then we'd look at it, analyse it, and then you'd come to an answer, at least one you thought was right, and then in time it would either not be right or not be right from basically do the experiment yourself, But here's the thing with that: you're 100% right. Coaching definitely helps. The mistakes I've made in the past and I only know this because I've done it myself. As a coach, the big mistake you can have is that it can also create a platform to grow your ego. And once that happens, it's so hard to come back on, because if you're the guy coaching, you are looked at as the highest guy, or the guy that must know, and if he must know, he must therefore be better than everyone else and all this.
Yeah.
That's the sort of natural thing that happens. And it's happened especially when I was a blue belt and a purple belt. It crippled me in my purple belt years, because I just thought I was untouchable. It's the ego, isn't it? And because obviously around at the time there wasn't really many people around, I was better than everyone else.
Yeah.
But on a very shitty level, do you know what I mean? When you're for the best person around, but everyone else is terrible, but you just don't know they're terrible, you're going to think you're a god, aren't you? And it's like, it wasn't really till then I went to Henzo's that I realised, that whole new level of just getting smashed by, other guys. So, I it's a terrible thing because, I see it all the time, and I've made mistakes before where certain people become coaches, and it's ruined them really. And I've got to pay attention a lot more to that as well, to be honest. But if you can get past that, then if you can overcome that, then that'll be fine.
Yeah, carry on, mate. There's alarms going on if that's on.
Right.
Yeah, thieves.
Someone's broken into my car. Mate, I think if you can just, again, still keep being humble yourself, because what will happen is you start to coach and then you start to avoid certain roles because you don't want yourself to look silly and whatnot. Just let it go. Just let that shit go and just get tapped out. If you can, again, if from a childhood you were taught that it's okay to lose and that's not a problem, this wouldn't be a problem now. You everything you choose to do is just develop so well. Why I think kids develop so well is because one of the reasons is they haven't got any preconceived ideas of what they should be and shouldn't be. They just enjoy what they do.
Yeah.
And they just soak in the knowledge up. Man. But coaching most definitely helps because you have to understand what you're talking about.
So when you came back from New York, did you set up somewhere? Because you were brown belt then, weren't you?
Yeah, I had my own little place, like a dungeon, garagey place. I walk in there every day, like a bucket of water, be just holding the drips from the ceiling.
Beautiful.
I'd sometimes walk in there, be like a dead rat inside it or something. We had our own place, but it's sort of my focus wasn't on business, not at all. I just like training and teaching people. So I ended up going to another gym, and just for the for a few years, I was just working out of other gyms, really, bringing my students along to there, and just building up from there, really. But for some reason or another, I'd always end up just falling out with people that owned the gyms and whatnot, because you sort of, as a business person, you're trying to make money. As a martial artist, you just want what's best for the students.
Yeah,
They don't always go together, you know. And that's why now I have my own place and I can put the two together really well. I know what it takes to get a gym successful, but I also know what it takes to be a good martial arts instructor. And you just put the two together. They need to work together, even though they're quite separate entities sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you have one rowing in one direction and you're rowing in another direction, it's never going to work. And it takes trust. So sometimes most people don't like to trust other people with their own business, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is a natural thing, really. I never really wanted to set my own gym up, not until I was a lot older, but here I am. Old, fat, disabled, and my own business.
Doing good, mate,
Living
if
the
I tell
dream.
you that. Yeah.
So, yeah, man. So, Az, why did you get into training?
Where did I start?
Yeah.
I was surfing quite a lot. I was based in North Devon, and in between, the waves aren't particularly good in the UK. You might have a decent surf, like maybe once a month. So in between doing that, I just had a lot of dead space between, I had got a family going home, got work and stuff, but I just wanted something in between. I'd done a bit of Krav Maga before. I give it a go.
You really have hit the worst of them, haven't you? Yeah.
Well, no. So what I did was, I emailed a few people. So Martin Stapleton, who's
Yes.
up in Rochdale.
He trained at my SPG gym in Plymouth.
Yeah, that's right.
Years
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah. So
He actually went with SPG in the end. He went with under Carl and stuff.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, they've got was it Full Contact Performance? They've got up
Right.
in Rochdale. Yeah, still keep in touch with him every now and again, but he's doing his thing now, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I texted him and asked him, what's his thoughts? Is there anything I could do? And he's like, yeah, try jiu-jitsu. So I had a little look around some martial arts areas in Exeter and stuff, and Exeter BJJ was there. You had Darren Yeoman's Fight Works in Taunton. So, and it wasn't the easiest option, but it was the closest option, which was training with James Hodges at Exeter BJJ.
I know James.
Yeah, and I just started going there and started my ass getting humbled straight away from day one, week one. Being a Marine.
Yeah,
and
you're a
stuff,
soldier. What are you doing?
being a Royal Marines commander, you're like, yeah, I'm nails. I can knock someone out in one punch, and then, you go somewhere like that, and like you were saying, earlier, you've got this little 60-kilo guy wrapping you up into knots, and I got 20 kilos on him, and I'm like that. How does this even work? But what I found really interesting about it wasn't. I've never been in it to compete or anything like that. I just found the technical aspect really, really interesting. Yeah. There is no, like for instance, I don't know how much about Cry, but Cry is a set amount of katas you have to do to certain things. They're all set movements.
It's very similar with all striking sports. Once you grasp your cross, your strike, and all that, it's really just a blend of rhythm then, a dance, so to speak. I know what you mean. This, whereas jiu-jitsu, there's constant changing of patterns and like it's like trying to chase an equation that keeps changing. It's like 2 + 2, and you're about to answer. It's like add 4, take away 1, times 4. It's constantly changing. You got to chase it. There's so many diverse little things to it that it keeps you entertained. Now, I'm the same with my mind. I get bored very easily, like with anything. So jiu-jitsu definitely has kept me engaged the longest because it's so diverse and there's so many things to it to improve.
You could be like Bruce Lee, be like water.
Yeah.
Because water's always changing, and that's why changing and moving. And it's a cheesy concept. However, it's very true.
Yeah, Bruce Lee is insane when you think of his philosophies and how much knowledge he would have had. Bear in mind, he wasn't a fighter. He didn't have jiu-jitsu and all these things. But he was so spot on. I think it's in the 60s or maybe the 70s.
Yeah.
Somebody asked him, what do you need to be if you want to be a complete all-round decent fighter? What do you need? And he said probably boxing and wrestling. It's like, wow, it's insane. I've never really followed the whole Bruce Lee thing, but like I'll talk about things sometimes, and everybody always bring up a quote. Oh, you mean like Bruce Lee said da 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 da? So then I'd read a little bit, and I'm like, wow, he's so. Don't know how he figured that stuff out.
Looking from his reading a couple of books, I had The Art of Jeet Kune Do when I was younger. I just found it interesting because of his concepts were like quite groundbreaking for the time. And you think back in that time as well, martial arts was judo is very, very formal and formatted. You know, there's set regimes and they're all very strict with everything. And okay, you could compare that with where your discipline and mindset comes with. But he had an open mind with things, and that's why I think he was unique, is because what he was doing was, his kung fu stuff, but he also incorporated a lot of other things that he learnt off other people into things.
He got rid of tried to get rid of the tradition. You know, it's just the biggest thing that holds humans back. It's sticking. Well, it's been like this for 1,000 years. It's great if we thought like that, we'd still be living in caves.
Yeah. So going back to what you were saying, or what you were asking is, because jiu-jitsu is always changing all the time. It's very conversant with surfing, because when you paddle out or you go through waves, or every wave is different, it's not the same. And it's the same with jiu-jitsu, where your training partners are never going to do the same movements every single time. When you've been taught a set movement, let's just say, a half guard sweep. Every single time you do that half guard sweep is never going to be the same, because that person's body weight's going to be different. It's going to be here, so everything's different.
It's not, right?
It's all there.
It's like I always use surfing as sort of an analogy. It's like, I could teach a move, but then you go and try and perform it. It's like it's impossible. You need to spend time on it. So it's the same with surfing, I guess. I've never surfed, but I'm always guessing this, so I might be making this up, and I've wasted years. But I'd imagine the first time you surf, they get the board out, lay it on the floor, and they teach you how to jump.
Fundamentals.
Right. So they jump onto the board, how to move left, right, blah blah blah. It's like then saying, okay, there's the sea, go surf. You can't, because there's all that invisible energy that's involved. I think Bradley used to have invisible jiu-jitsu. That's a really good idea. I love that. But yeah, it's invisible. Like the things that are going on, the pressures and the energies that you. So SPG always tried to break that down and explain that a lot more. Gunny does that very well, and that's really the fundamentals. It's understanding that is the most important thing. The moves. I mean, you could get 6 world champions and teach you a cut-through pass, and each one of them will do it different, slightly different. And you'd be like, well, that guy must be right because he's a world champion, but then that guy's right because he's a world champion. It's like you take all of those 6 and you look for the common ground between all of them, and you slowly start to work on what the fundamental is between them all, the concept.
What I came to find was, especially as a white belt early on, was that you get taught a technique one session, and then you might move on to another technique on another session, but you were never ever going to remember the complexities of what you'd been taught, because you're never going to get it straight away. So what I always used to say to people, and what I got out of it was, if I took one thing away from that session, whether it was a really, really small, minute thing, whether it was how I turned my foot in or where to put my knee, and I remembered that next time, then I'm getting better because of that. I'm never going to remember the set format of how to do that maneuver, because your mind can't absorb it, or the majority, 99% of the world's population can't absorb information and then do it straight away. It has to be practiced. And that's what I'm saying, where between surfing and jiu-jitsu is very similar, even though they're 2 separate entities, is because you learn by doing it and practice in time.
I find such a crossover with most things. Like, once you think this way, jiu-jitsu really highlights it, but like, I used to play a lot of snooker and stuff, and I started playing again after years, but I find such a crossover even with that. different sports are more specific in certain areas. Like some are more based on like your mental strength and fit, or others are physical, or some tech. Whereas jiu-jitsu really encompasses all of it. Is it together? Is it sort of, you've got to get all of them quite balanced and well blended together for them to work. So yeah, mate, I think definitely you need to definitely need to have that mindset and balance towards it. Everything. Yeah.
So you're a brown belt. You're doing bits and bobs in different in different gyms. How did you go about receiving your black belt then?
Well, so I got my, because of my obsessive behaviours, I got my brown belt pretty quick. It's about 3 years, maybe 3.5 years. I got my brown belt.
That's pretty quick, right? For
yeah, and it was all performance based, so I wouldn't get it unless I was beating guys.
Oh yeah.
So basically, like with Carl, like to get my brown belt, I remember going up there and he was basically, he had a seminar thing going on, and I had to do what they do in Ironman. So he'd call you out in the middle. I didn't know what was going on until you're halfway through it.
Yeah.
And basically, you'd line everyone up, and you'd have to go through every single person. So there's a submission.
Okay.
So from white belt all the way up to the black belts. So it was like, it went on for about an hour. And I can still remember now, I was sick for 4 days after that. And as soon as you got tapped, the next guy's on you. And you're just going from wherever he grabs you. Made hideous. And I got my brown belt off that. But yeah, that was the toughest belt to ever get in that way, because I literally was ill for 4 days. I think I got the flu from just running my immune system down or something.
Yeah,
it was
right.
Hideous. So basically, Carl actually disappeared. I won't get into that, but he had some things going on, and I didn't know what was happening. I tried to contact him and whatnot. So then I got the opportunity to go to New York. So I messaged Carl, let him know I'm going to New York. But there was like sort of radio silence from Carl's end. He was a little bit like that. Bless him. He had to still disappear for a while and whatnot. So I came back from New York, and I didn't, after about a year, I didn't have a coach or anything. So, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't really care. Like at that point, I just loved training, and when you're really comfortable with who you are and what you're doing and what level you're at, you really can be honest about yourself. Like you don't need belts or anything. So I wasn't caring about the belt. I mean, I knew I was sort of close to it in New York, because a few of the guys and Eric would say that they're thinking about, the next belt and whatnot. But at that point, because I was loving the training so much, and I could really actually see physically the improvement week by week.
Yeah.
That's what I cared about. That's all I wanted. So I spent the next 4 years just training in Plymouth, and I trained obviously I had my white belts and my guys and some blue belts to train with, and I trained with Gunny now and again, but then I trained mainly with a guy called Luke Costello.
Yep.
And Tom Barlow at the time. Both completely opposite games. Like Tom is like very athletic, very what's the right word? Very physically attribute games. Like he was an ex-gymnast, I think, so he's just very go sort of style. And then you had Luke, who was just like Hulk smash kind of massive guy. Both technical and both very good at what they've done, So I had sort of very good contrast of training partners in that aspect, but and then training with my own guys. To be honest, I got better training with my own guys, just because you've got a low-level guy that you can basically drill against.
Yeah.
But he is resistant, so it's constantly. I could go for hours with people like that. And then Braulio Estima. So I trained with Braulio quite a few times while I was in New York. I also trained him a few times previous, because Tom was on the Braulio.
Okay.
So Tom would get Braulio down to do seminars. And that was actually when I was a brown belt under Carl, and it was actually, that was the first time I ever got to roll with a really high level guy, was Braulio at the seminar, and he absolutely mullered me. And I was like, this can't be happening. I'm a brown belt.
That must have been like his prime when he was doing like ADCC and
Yeah,
that
I
sort
think
of stuff
just
then as
before.
well.
I think just before, yeah, because yeah, it was hideous. He had I think he won the Gi World Championships and stuff at black belt at that point. So yeah, and that's when I was like, okay, I don't want my black belt until I can at least hang with somebody like that.
Yeah.
I don't like just hang. then obviously went to New York, come back, trained for the next 4 years or so, and just massively improved. Started getting good roles with Gunny and stuff in. And then Braulio came down because I was actually joining teams with Tom actually.
Okay.
So the gym I was at didn't get on with them for whatever reasons, which I'm getting to. It's boring.
Yep.
Went to join up with Tom because we trained together for so long. And Braulio had come down to do a seminar, and I rolled with Braulio and done pretty good. So he gave him a black belt. Then it's funny because they joked about it when he gave him a black belt. They said they'd never seen him be so miserable getting a black belt. I wasn't not miserable. One, I was tired.
Yeah.
But two, it's like, how I can explain it. I was proud to get it 100%, especially for someone like Braulio, But when you know what level you're at, it's not like suddenly I give you a purple belt and wow, I'm a purple belt level. I'd already been rolling with black belt level guys at Henzo's constantly. I even went up to Braulio's and trained, helped him train for the ADCC up there. So you had, I'm sorry, there's this stupid alarm's going on.
That's all right. There we go, it's off.
That's good. So yeah, I even went up to Braulio's to train for the ADCC. I forgot which one now for him. And you had people like Cyborg, Pablo Popovich, Legato, Victor. So I knew what level I was at. It's like, I mean, I wasn't getting beat up by anyone. So I was happy just training that. But he gave me a black belt then, so that was really cool. But it wasn't like a surprise, you know what I mean? I knew eventually at some point it's going to come if I keep training anyway.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a focus of mine. It was just I just love training, man. I just really love training. It just kept me happy. So yeah, and then here we are now, man. Braulio sort of branched off a little bit. Well, he didn't branch off, but Braulio was under his name, Braulio Steamer. But then he sort of completed himself, being completely under like Gracie Barra. So it all sort of changed a little bit. I didn't want to be under Gracie Barra because, me, mate, I'm a bit of a loner, rebel, lone wolf.
Yeah.
I like to run things the way I want to. Maybe that's right, maybe that's wrong, I don't know. But, this is my hard work for the last 20 years. And I always appreciate every bit of help everyone's given me. Got nothing but great things to say about all my coaches. Fantastic. But I just wanted to run things how I wanted to. And then Ben Popperton came along with the Gordo group. Chatted to him. In fact, I wasn't sure what I was going to do because I know I needed like the whole tags and things on my belts to help progress. I'm not into all that stuff. I just like training.
Yeah.
And so, but I needed these tags. So basically, I spoke to Ben, but it was actually, I wasn't sure if I was going to go with him or no, but it was actually Ben's opening line on a message to me that made me think, I like this guy. It was Simon McGovern got me onto Ben and sent me his number and said, give him a chat. So Ben actually texted me. He said, hey mate, this is Ben. And he gave me his credentials. He said, I'm just sending you them so you don't think I'm some guy like Dave Dameron. I was like, this guy sold me. I like him already. So, and then here we are, man. And there seems such a good group at the minute. Like, everything's going so great. And they don't ask for anything, you know what I mean? They just want to do what's good for the game. And that's nice.
Where did the flow martial arts concept come from?
The name?
Well, just the whole thing. So, like, obviously you got your black,
gym.
So you got you got your black belt from Braulio, and then
so this is funny. So years before, when I first started Vale Tudo with Simon, a guy that would pop in now and again was a guy called Darren Hess, and he was like the old school style, Vale Tudo MMA fighter, and he's just a strong like gorilla of a man.
Still is.
A little older and hairier now, but yeah. So he would train. So he would actually sometimes teach. He was teaching me things back then and whatnot. 10 years later, he went away working in Iraq or whatever. But then when I started teaching back here and at Tom's, and he came along, came back training. So yeah, he just fell in love with it again. Because he's obviously hitting towards 50.
Probably older.
He was just really happy that he could get back training. He just fell in love with it again, and he offered me to go into business together, to set up a gym. It took me about a year to you know, whether I wanted to or no, because I didn't really want to get involved, like I said, that much, but things weren't going well at the other gym, so I was like, you know what, it's time waits for no man. It's got to do it. It's been tough, there's no doubt about it. We've had all sorts of ups and downs and whatnot, but yeah, it's gone well and we're in a good place now. So let's get this damn COVID over and get everyone back to normal.
Yeah, it's a weird time for that, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. I think most people know my feelings on that whole thing, but
Yeah.
I'm not even going to get down
Just
that
check
rabbit
your
hole.
Facebook feed.
Yeah. There's a lot. I think this is the thing. My Facebook. It's like half the stuff I don't even know what I believe, but I damn well like getting triggers out of people.
Yeah.
That's my source of entertainment.
Love a good rise.
Oh god, yeah. I could just post something to get a little rise. I just started posting Trump speeches now, so that's going to get a rise, isn't it?
Always does.
I just can't, like, yeah, it's a funny world, man. It's a funny world, but at the same time, as much as it annoys me, I sort of like it. I like this world. It'd be shit without it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Well, especially now you've got this place and stuff.
I know, mate. I know. And we the first, in business terms, we broke even actually in the first 6 months of this place.
Oh, really?
Insane, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you never know what's going to happen and whatnot. But I was like, wow. But then we invested I say we, Darren especially mainly invested so much money that we sort of didn't have the room for marketing. So we spent like 2 years of running through what we can, but then we started marketing just before Christmas, and we straight away noticed like such an increase of business, and then the damn COVID came. It's like they knew, man.
Yeah.
They just didn't want me to.
You had some Chinese spies in there, I reckon, and that's
so.
why they released it,
Yeah.
just to fuck you
Yeah.
right over.
But yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think hopefully it's going to be like the Christmas rush, you know, after this is over. But I don't know what the damn rules are going to be. Like, you know, you have to stand on one leg and close one eye before you step in the place.
I've seen some, you know, granted people want to get their gyms back and running. I think if you've got your own sort of like physical gym where you've got weights and stuff, or like CrossFit, it's all right because you've got that space.
Yeah.
Grappling's grappling. You need a part. Well,
Yeah.
you need a live partner really, and having dummies and stuff like that is, I don't know.
But
There's part of me that goes, yeah, that's good because you can practice doing certain things, but there's also an unrealistic element which you're not really going to develop from it either.
It's not the same. It's not what I'm about. It's like it's going to be hard if we have to go down that route because it's not what I do. You know, that's a whole different thing, really.
Yeah.
It's just almost like everyone's going to be faking it. You know what I mean? Like suddenly everybody's a fitness coach. It's like, come on.
I know plenty of them.
Yeah, me too. But so I don't know, man, and it's so frustrating. It's like, take responsibility yourself. If you don't want to get anything, stay at home. Just stay at home. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of people that rely on this for their mental health, which is also really, really important. Mate, it's blown my mind how many people have messaged me over the last few years about how much has it helped them mentally, and they haven't got it now. It's just like that's important too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are important in life. So to me, it's just, you know, freedom's important and taking responsibility for yourself. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I went to obviously my daughter was born.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you, man. That was 6 days ago now.
Yeah.
But even now, I walked into the hospital. I didn't know what the rules were, so me being me, I just walk in like, and it's like a scene out of Star Wars. Like everybody's got these masks and stuff on, and I went to the cafe bit, and you know, you got all these different rules. Stand here, look that way, don't look that way, blah blah blah. And they come out with like these, like, you know, the nuclear reactor suits. They come out, pass you the food. But then you walk over, get the cutlery, and everyone's just sticking their hands in the cutlery. It's like it feels like everybody's just, as long as they look like they're trying to do something, it's all going to be okay. You know what I mean?
Do you know what? I was going to do like a half-hour podcast, just kind of ranting about that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, my wife, she works for the NHS in clinical health, so you know she looks at different studies for the NHS. You know, she does the trials for drugs and stuff to see if different things can help people in different ways. And I see people, I understand that people are scared, don't get me wrong, I've got the empathy towards that. But then when you see people wearing a mask that's underneath their nose and they're riding a bike, you're like that, okay, brilliant. Or you've got parents that have got face masks on, but then their 2-year-old that they're holding in their arms hasn't. I think,
or you're wearing a mask and you're driving on your own.
Yeah,
mate, it's like going to bed single wearing a condom. You know.
Do you know what? It's just the last I'm going to say on this, because I could go on for absolutely ages ranting about this, right? But so I went into a co-op, and there was a woman. She had a face mask on and she had some rubber gloves. No, it was boots. It was boots. Sorry. Right. And she was at the counter, and they said to her, "Would you like some hand sanitizer?" And she said, "Oh yeah, okay." So she put her stuff onto the counter, put this hand sanitizer, and rubbed the hand sanitizer into her gloves. Right. She then got the hand sanitizer and just rubbed it on the keypad for the card machine. So the woman started scanning. So the boots woman behind the counter, she didn't have gloves on or a mask. She grabbed all of the stuff that she put behind the counter and started scanning it and put it down. She then handed her all of the things back once she'd paid for it. The woman then took a glove off, got her stuff and put it into her bag, and then put a glove back on and then hand sanitized herself. And I was like, that.
Genius.
Do you not understand the concept of contamination?
You cannot sanitize the world. You can't. You just can't.
But look, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I understand that.
I reckon if the media started pumping out like every single person got run over by a bus that week, we'd all stop being like panicking about buses.
I mean, Gary's ideal for that because he pumps loads of stats
like
out, doesn't he? He was saying stuff about like, he was the first person to start pumping all the stats out. This is how many people died of influenza this year. COVID's right down the bottom of that list. What are you on about?
Oh, mate, it's a bizarre world, and I think, I don't know, whatever. Everyone gets sensitive about it, don't they? But I think it will come out in the wash in the end, hopefully, along with Epstein's list.
Yeah, that's a different podcast altogether, right there, isn't it?
One.
Have you got any future plans for this place, or what?
Yeah, mate, we've always got endless plans. More classes. We've got to get more classes on eventually, later ones. We're just trying to build more members up. We're going to redo this whole area up here. It's like a cafe bar area going to go in there eventually.
Yeah.
And there's also, mate, I could go on forever and a day. All sorts of plans. We still want to change up there eventually. See how the next couple of years go. Might even extend or whatever. We've got some big plans. Some are quiet at the minute, but yeah, it's all good stuff. It all depends on how everything goes. I get really paranoid, so I'm worried about the economy and stuff right now. But just improvement, man. Just improvement. I want to get a friend of mine down to do a seminar actually on breathing.
Okay.
I haven't spoken to him yet about it. He doesn't know nothing about it. I'm asking him.
Yeah.
But I will do, because I didn't realise he'd done it. And another friend of mine who knows him was talking to me that he's qualified in this. And I have seen the odd post that you put up about how important breathing is in jiu-jitsu and whatnot. It's so bizarre because I spent a good time 12 years ago, and I always bring it up now. One of the biggest changing points in my game was when someone taught me how to breathe better. And I only know like 3% of this breathing game, but that 3% made a complete difference. So I always bang on about it, and so like, it'd be good to get someone down who could maybe put that across to people. I mean, I tell my guys about it, but they're like, yeah. But anyways, what's the nearest? How do you get that footlock? It's like people don't want to look at some of the. Again, it's a fundamental thing. In fact, it's probably more fundamental before anything else.
Yeah.
If you can't breathe, you can't do. Simple. We take it to a far extreme on the other way. If we say we roll for 30 seconds and we'll go at it, but you've got to hold your breath for 30 seconds, and then we go for another minute afterwards, I'm going to beat you. You know what I mean? It's and probably the same the other way.
Yeah.
So it's breathing's massive. It's the first thing to go. You get stressed and all that, your breathing's gone. Everyone gets, they ain't trained for a while, or people go, oh yeah, my cardio's terrible. It's not. It's your efficiencies are terrible. You're not very efficient.
Yeah.
You're burning more energy than you realise you need. You're getting more stressed. Your breathing's out. If your breathing's out, everything's out.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I want to guy that I want to get Ben Popperton down to do a seminar, and then once we've got them guys down, I want to then get maybe a couple more big names come down. People love that, don't they? Might get Gunny down again as well. Keep meaning to meet up with him. I've not seen him for ages. We always keep in touch, but we like that. We don't see each other for bloody like a year or so, and then we just meet up and carry on as normal. But I haven't seen him for a long time since he opened this place. That's the last time we caught up. And he messaged me the day to come over to Iceland, but then the COVID happened. So I might get him down here. Again, that'd be nice. So yeah, man, we've got loads of things in the pipeline. I've got to change timetables and all that as well. Now. So I want to get a wrestling coach in more permanently. So we'll get there. It's all work in progress.
Yeah, awesome. If people want to see where the gym is and what you've got on, where do they need to go for it?
The website. So we're on Facebook. So Flow Martial Arts, FLO. We also have a website that needs updating. I think now it's about a year old, which is Flow. What's that? Minus sign in hyphen martial arts, all with hyphens between it. Or more importantly, just come down and check the place out when we're open again. We're on Valley Road in Plimpton. We're unit 9. So just come down and check the place out. You get a week's free trial as well for anybody who wants to just give the place a check out. I'm not sure when we're going to be open. They're talking about the 25th for gyms, but like I say, I think that's different for us. So I'm going to chuck another month on top of that, I reckon, until we're back full-time training, I guess. That's just me guessing.
Yeah.
Maybe less, because they seem to be speeding up a lot more now because they realise they made a mistake.
They do what they want, don't they? They do what they want.
So yeah, just come down, guys. But I think probably Facebook's the best place for all the latest information. What I have been doing with my current members, because bless them, and I just want to shout this out as well to all the members that have continued paying their membership. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you so much, because it just goes to show how important this is for people and what it means to them. You know, to keep the place running is massive. I think everyone, like I say, it means so much to people, this place, that you'd happily pay that money. And what we try to do is on Instagram, I set up a page for the members to continue getting some kind of technical information or whatever.
So that's you've got judo, jiu-jitsu, there's a bit of striking on there.
Boxing. Kickboxing, Thai boxing, so MMA, so there's a little bit of fitness classes. And I think we're going to try and get Will to push, because Will, little Will trains here. He's highly qualified in strength and conditioning, but he just needs a little push sometimes. He's quite young, so he needs a little push towards just getting himself out there a bit more. But I'm hoping that he's going to sort of build things up this year a little bit. Maybe get some classes going.
What's Will's website?
Will's website, I don't know. It's
Will Conway.
He's on Instagram. So William Conway or Will Conway, strength conditioning. But yeah, he just needs to get out there. He's young, you know what I mean. So it's like that age. I won't even come close to doing anything like that. But he's highly qualified, and also he does jiu-jitsu at a good level. So he's gonna have a good experience the next couple of years. So that'd be nice. Get some kettlebell classes on as well. I need to get kettlebell classes and things like that going. That's pretty much what I can think of right now.
Nice. Yeah. Kenny, thanks for your time.
Mate, thank you.
And, we'll speak again soon.
Yes, we'll do, mate, and good luck with the podcast.
Cheers. Thanks, mate. And that's it. Thanks to Kenny Baker for his stories. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes and Spotify, leave a review, and also follow the Grumpy Surfer podcast on Instagram. Just search The Grumpy Surfer. Thanks for listening.